Cat paws on carpet make nary a sound, and ethereal ones even less, when those paws belong to the small black cat with green eyes known as the Wanderer. This cat seems to hesitate for a moment as its soft pointed ears flick back and forth in anxious motions as the cat slowly pans his gaze back and forth throughout the dark apartment located in the heart of downtown Laropa. The light from the cat's eyes make green spotlights that examine every detail in sharp scrutiny before moving on to the next. This is done by an otherwise motionless feline shape that they have grown accustomed to wearing these long years. It was a shape that was both comforting and reassuring at the same time, at least for those under their care. And for one of those charges, this action was the last act of kindness that the Wanderer could grant him. The request that had been made had come as a complete surprise to the Wanderer, but it was one that the cat couldn't rightly ignore. He had no idea how Levi and his uncle had been discovered, but judging by the scene the cat was currently surveying, the one thing he was sure was that neither men had left without a fight. Furniture smashed or turned over, artwork askew on the walls, holes and tears just about everywhere on every surface. These were signs of a struggle, there's no doubt about it. The cat steps forward into the apartment, cautiously moving as though they were expecting something would jump out at them at any moment. By the time Levi had contacted the Wanderer, the cowboy seemed to already know what was in store for him and where his destination lay. The explanation of his plan left the Wanderer with concerns. But the decision was already made, and there was little the cat could do. It was well out of his paws. All he could do was fulfill the young man's request as best as he could, and hope that the seeker of justice knew what he was doing. The object Levi had asked him to collect was exactly where he said it would be, tucked into the dirt of an overturned fern in the living room. It was a gem, though muddy, a bright silver one about the size of a marble. Levi's soul crystal, hidden there during the scuffle that previous evening. He had been gone for nearly a day before contacting the cat, a fact that rather annoyed them, if the truth were told. Apparently, the fashion world is far more cutthroat than the Wanderer had previously suspected. With the gem in hand, or rather, paw, as the case may be, there was only two things left to do, and the first one was to clean up the scene. This task was the easier of the two, at least from the Wanderer's perspective. They were already well experienced with sanitizing a location to keep, the locals from asking questions. As far as the rest of the world would know, Levi and his uncle had returned to France for business and family reasons. A perfectly valid excuse, and one that was easy to accept. The apartment would be rented out again. The other residents would slowly forget about their absent neighbor. As for the other request, well, that one was going to be a little difficult. Find someone brave, Levi had asked the Wanderer. Someone skilled and kind. Make sure the team has backup while I'm away. The Wanderer wasn't very good at impressions, even in his own mind. But he had asked Levi if the cowboy was sure, if he understood what it was he was asking. The cowboy did, and so, once the apartment was straightened out with a little magic, The wanderer stretched his dragon's wings out and took to the skies once again, carrying that soul crystal along with him. The rest of the team were starting up their investigation for the evening, so the cat was relatively sure he had some time to begin his search. I mean, come on. How hard is it to find a brave and skilled and kind person with a pure heart and an affinity for magic in a city of this size? Nevertheless, it was time for the wanderer to tangle their claws in the threads of fate once again. In another part of Loropa City, we turn our attention to another student of Coltrast Academy who is making their way home for the evening. The sun is just starting to set over the sleepy Pacific Northwestern city, and the rain that has been lingering overhead all day long has no doubt chilled this particular individual to the bone. It's been pouring down on and off pretty much all day long, and with the sun just starting to descend behind the treetops surrounding the city, there is a particular gloom that's hanging over it like a dense fog, attempting to choke down the spirits of anyone who lingers too long in the shadows. As for that Coltrast student, Salem, would you please describe yourself and tell us a little bit about what you've been doing that's kept you out so late into the evening?
All right. Salem is about 5'10", slender build. He has long, wavy, curly hair that is kept up in a bun usually. It's an auburn color that fades to a faded pink on the ends. His eyes are a weird green-blue color, very vibrant. And currently what is keeping him out is he has had an eventful day after school of lots of cello practice, usually by himself, just getting in those last few minutes of work, and just kind of doing more homework. He's at the ROPA for a scholarship, so he's got to really work hard, and so he really wants to prove himself.
Absolutely. So imagine after finishing up with the cello, you're there at the library for a little bit, and the library's open till about 7 or so, which is about the time that you're making your way back to that single room that you stay in. As you make your way down the city streets, the sun going down over the horizon casts this dark orange and purples and some added blues into that heavy clouds that's been hanging overhead all day. It's cold. The wind is beginning to pick up, coming off of the river, and you can't help but feel a chill, so much so that you have to pull your blazer tight over your chest to just keep that out. While the city streets are somewhat beginning to empty, there are still people lingering out. Some people walking in 2s and 3s. Ahead you see a family walking down the street, a little kid between them, kind of playing with a ball, dribbling it a little bit while the mother and father chat amiably with one another. They're walking ahead of you, maybe about 5 or 6 paces, and you're kind of going a little bit slower, not needing to, overtake them or anything, just making your way down the streets, heading back to your home. As you're walking, the rain is coming to just a bit of a peter, so much so that you're a little bit better off now than you were when you first started walking. You're drenched, obviously, but you're at least feeling a little bit more comfortable, which is a good thing because it allows you to be a bit more mindful of what's going on around you. You can see that trio up ahead is coming to a halt, and they're hitting, the little push button to cross the street. And you're walking along, just moving to one side of the sidewalk to give them their space. Now, as you're passing, you can't help but glance to the road because you can see the family starting to wait there. You see that there is a car coming up ahead. You see their headlights moving rather fast. Your eyes go back to the trio. Just as the little girl playing with that ball, with the slickness of the rain, it just slips right out of her hand and goes bouncing across the street ahead of her. The mother and the father, they're still chatting with one another. Your eyes glance up at them. They're not watching the daughter, who is now turning and running after her ball. But that car up ahead is barreling towards them. What do you do?
So, honestly, Salem is already booking it. I think his body started moving before his brain even rationalized what was going on. It's just kind of what he does. That's how he has always been. So he just books it for the kid, try and get there as quick as he can to push her out of the way or carry her out of the way.
Absolutely. You turn and run as fast as you can towards that little girl just as she stops in the middle of the road, grabbing her ball and looks up. The headlights are rushing towards her. You're stepping as fast as you can. You run, you jump, and you push with all of your might just as this car comes flying right at her. You feel your hands connecting with her back just enough time, and you shove with all of your might, throwing her across the street out of the way. But as you go down towards the pavement, those headlights are getting closer and closer and closer to you. You look just as your body's starting to descend towards the pavement as those headlights come flying towards you. Do you have any last thoughts before the inevitable happens and you are struck by that car?
I do. My mother was right. She knew that my kindness would always get me into trouble.
With those last thoughts, you close your eyes in anticipation of a strike that never comes. For that matter, you don't feel yourself hitting the street like you were supposed to. You open your eyes and look around, only to find yourself hanging in midair, with a dark sedan barely inches away from hitting you full on in your side. You tense, expecting to feel some sort of impact. But as the moments go by, nothing seems to happen. Nothing at all. You look about, wild, frantically, side to side, around. Even the rain that was slowly starting to peter out has halted in place and is catching the headlights from that car, sending in this rainbow of colors all around you. But then as you look back, you stop, because sitting there on the ground right in front of you is a small black cat, just sitting there nonchalantly on the road. This cat has green eyes that seem to glow with a rather comforting light. And it has a wide grin on its face, almost like the Cheshire Cat from Alice in Wonderland. Its tail is curled around its back legs, and the tip of it is tapping just a little bit against the road. And as you're watching, its ears begin to twitch to the left, as though it's hearing something from somewhere else, and seems to be a bit annoyed by it. But then the cat turns and looks at you once again, and it maybe surprises you, but at the same time doesn't surprise you, that when it opens its mouth, it speaks to you. It says, "Huh, wow, that was actually really impressive. You just dove headlong in front of a car to push that kid out of the way with no thought whatsoever. That was pretty good."
I will never turn down a compliment, thank you. But am I able to move, or am I just completely still,
So
stuck?
you are still stuck in place, like out, legs out, arms out. You can move your head, you can move your eyes, you can feel yourself speak and hear yourself speak, but you're just stuck there.
No, okay. Internally, Salem is just beside himself with embarrassment, but he's going to pretend to be cool. This is fine. Oh, alright. So, cats are talking. I'm frozen. This must be purgatory, right? I died.
Well, that's half true. You're about to die. Actually, if I didn't stop time for a brief moment for us to talk, that car would have absolutely just creamed you. Red smear on the road, but look over there. And the cat turns, and those glowing eyes cast to that little girl who is well out of sight of the range of that car. You look. The cat turns back to you and says, "Yeah, while you would have absolutely been destroyed. You got the girl out of the way. Parents, they really need to learn to take better care of their kids, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you because, well, what you did just then, that was really brave and heroic. And I kind of need more people who are brave and heroic. You see, well, my name's the Wanderer. I'm not really a cat. Obviously, I'm speaking to you right now. What I am is somebody who keeps an eye on things in this world. I'm the herald of your world. And unfortunately, there's a lot of really bad stuff out there. There are these things called spectral outsiders, beings from elsewhere that are trying to invade your world. I find individuals such as yourself who are brave and selfless and pure of heart. And sometimes if something bad's about to happen to them and they're about to die, well, I can make it that you won't. I can change your fate. I can move that string just a little bit so you can keep going.
I mean, that is quite an enticing offer, but I mean, I hope you don't mind me asking, what's the fine print?
Well, the fine print is, if you agree, you're going to become a Magi-Knight, a defender of this world whose role is to defend it from the evil outsiders and stop them from taking over. It's actually not a bad gig. You get magic, you get powers, you can transform and do all sorts of fun stuff. And mainly what you have to do is investigate your town. See, Laropa here is a nexus point, a place where the walls between realities are really just thinner than everywhere else, which is why the outsiders are able to come through here. And well, they could use your help. We absolutely could, and so that's kind of why I'm here. I can stop what's happening, or I can give you the power to get away.
Salem is really taking it in, taking his time listening. His mom is lovely, but she is also a bit of a con person, so he gets very hesitant around deals, if you will. So he's really trying to weigh his pros and cons on this. But I think just, all right, I don't think that this is just a limited time offer, and I don't foresee any other options. So I guess I will save questions for later and agree to your terms.
Great. Glad to hear it. As he says that, he kind of begins to push himself upright and stretch a little bit. And as he moves his shoulders backwards, you see his back begins to ripple and fold outward, becoming a pair of dragon-like wings that sprout out from behind his shoulder blades. These wings spread and begin to flap, and he rises upward a little bit into the air so that the two of you are level. He says, well, okay, don't worry, this won't hurt a bit. He flies towards you, and your arms have been outstretched this whole time. He just flies over to one of your hands and bites down hard on your palm. You feel the most excruciating pain you've ever experienced in your life. It feels as though someone is hooking a piece of your soul and ripping it out from your body, almost like a fish hook in the navel kind of sensation, pulling outward, but then suddenly you feel a release. At the same time, somewhere in the distance, you hear a sound, almost like a shatter. But then when you look, floating there near your hand is an odd sort of amorphous blob that rises up and then forms and collates into a single pure gem. What color does this gem present to you?
I know his colors are mostly greens, but I think the gem itself is actually going to be like that cherry blossom pink.
I like it. It forms there and flashes with that pink light. And as it does, you feel a strange sort of warmth, of comfort. You're unable to control yourself. You just reach out with your hand and grab that crystal. And the moment you do, power surges within you. Time seems to speed back up. You're flying as hard as you can, jumping almost in from your midair leaving point out of the way of the car, just as it skids around, honking wildly. You land on the ground in a bit of a crouch right next to the child you had just pushed out of the way, and you look back to see that car fishtailing a little bit as though it's trying to swerve before it's blazing on down the road away. You glance back. The cat is gone, but instead you hear this loud scream from the woman at the sidewalk. The two of them come running over to their daughter, who is crying at this point. And the two of them grab onto her and hug her, crying themselves. The two of them and the daughter both just start thanking you profusely, but their words seem kind of hollow because something else is definitely weighing on your mind. And in your hand, you can feel the hardness of that gem. It's there in your fist. And while these people are thanking you over and over and over again, you look up, and to the other side of the sidewalk, there that cat is. Just sitting there, kind of watching. The two people pull you up and kind of pull you over to the side of the road, and they're thanking you over and over and over again. And it takes a while to get them to go away.
Don't mention it. I'm going to do that like very stereotypical like anime pretty boy thing when they're in the rain. They just flick their hair back and does that slow motion glisten. Just like, it's fine. I'm glad I could be of assistance, but I must be on my way now.
Absolutely. They finally do let you go, and the father's carrying the daughter away while the mother holds on to the ball, neither of them allowing this chance to happen again. And you make your way across the street towards that cat, who's been sitting there watching this whole thing with a bit of a smirk on his face. Well, that took a bit longer than I was expecting, but I guess they were thankful.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know about you. You ready to get out of the rain? I'm ready.
Oh well, I would love to do that. Let's get somewhere. Let's get somewhere indoors, and maybe I can fill you in a little bit on the details.
Would be greatly appreciated. And I mean, I guess depending on where we're at in town, I'd probably just continue to my apartment, if that's the closest one.
Probably. It takes no time whatsoever to make your way to your apartment, and the cat just kind of walks along with you. As you travel, you are you pass by people every now and again, people hurrying to their own homes or cars, things like that. Occasionally they glance at you, but nobody seems to notice the cat as he's walking alongside you. Every so often the cat would put his head to one side, almost as though he's listening to something that you can't quite hear. But he makes no real comment on this fact. He just continues walking next to you, glancing up at you, glancing to the side, glancing to another side. Eventually you make it to your apartment, and you're able to get out of your wet clothes and warm up just a bit. By the time you're feeling a little more yourself, the cat seems to have made himself at home, sitting on your couch, curled up on your favorite pillow, just sitting there, tail tapping. Says, "Well, we got a little time that we can. It's fine." So the long and the short of it is kind of like this. That there in your hand is your soul crystal. It is, in very real terms, a crystallized piece of you. It's your essence. It's what allows you to draw on your powers as a Magi-Knight. As I said, there are beings called spectral outsiders, and the unfortunate reality is there are people who are willing to bind themselves to these outsiders for power. If you haven't guessed by now with the name Magi-Knight, magic is real. It's a real thing, and it's really the only thing that can be used against the outsiders. The powers of a Magi-Knight is what allows you to destroy the outsider and to purify those they have, infected or possessed or corrupted in some way or another.
Listening to this, I think actually Salem is using one of those things that you can get for Dorm for like warming up teas, like the tea warmer that's not on an actual stove. So he's making himself a cup. He's poured the Wanderer a little bowl of milk and set him by there. He's never had a pet growing up, and he's always wanted one. So like he's kind of loving this. He's like, oh no, I can have a pet and nobody can see it. This is fantastic. But gotta focus. So he's really listening in on this, and I think he's gonna ask, is there anyone else? Am I the only one here now?
Oh, actually, no. There are others. They're actually right now in the middle of an investigation into one of the local churches, and the job of a Magi-Knight, like I said, is to hunt down those who serve the outsiders and to stop the outsiders from coming into our world. And that's what your fellows are doing. They had a friend who was with them who unfortunately had to move on, and while they are doing well, they could use the help. And so when I found you, I thought, well, who better to help them out?
I don't know what powers I quite possess just yet, but I will certainly give it my all.
Well, now that you are a Magi-Knight, you have quite a few powers. Your soul crystal reacts in a few different ways. First of all, it glows in the presence of outsiders or in the presence of cultists using the power of outsiders. When your soul crystal glows, you are able to transform. You, right now, should be able to feel within your heart the words that will allow you to transform. These are an inherent gift, something that is purely you. But when you say those words, you will transform into your Magi-Knight foe. You will be able to use your powers and fight against those that threaten your world. The rest of the time, you have to, spend looking for them, finding them. They're crafty, they're clever, they want to take over your world, and they're not going to just be doing it out on the street corner. They tend to hide things and keep everything on the DL for, So it's kind of your job to search them out, hunt them down, and that's what your fellows are doing right now. Actually, huh?
What? You've been distracted all night. What's going on?
Well, it seems like they're finding they're coming up on one right now.
Oh.
They just sensed some, and they're Damian is stopping the car. Actually, this is a perfect opportunity. I haven't been able to tell them that you're joining up with them, but now's a good time as any.
I mean, suddenly pulls out his planner. Screw it. My night's free. Okay. Where do I go? I guess I'm doing this. I signed up, so what do I do?
What do you do? Well, it's not far from here. I'm going to have to lead you, but you should probably transform now. Otherwise, we're not going to make it in time. I can help you with that. Now, normally, you would only be able to do this in their presence, or, actually, technically, you can do it at any time. It's just really, really difficult, and it kind of breaks your crystal a little bit. So you should only transform in dire need if there's no outsiders, but I can also provide the power for training purposes or to get you there quickly. So I think now is a good time to do that. And you see the cat, his eyes begin to glow bright green. As he does so, the crystal in your hand also begins to glow. That faint, warm pink light coming off of it. The Wanderer says, Just focus. Listen to your soul. Listen to your heartbeat. There, in that rhythm, you can find the words to speak.
And with that, you actually see Salem start to nod their head as they hear the slow progression of music just coming forth. It's just, do you hear that? That beautiful allegro. I am nature's instrument. I shall play her symphony. And as he's going on, I'm imagining just like, almost like magically induced, like plants slowly growing up, one wrapping around each limb, as it starts to like almost puppet him into a conduction. And the song, like Vivaldi's Spring, slowly starts to just like pump forward as he's just conducting this music. And with each crescendo, he like snaps his fingers as each bit of armor begins to form before a whole collective of vines and plants and flowers completely surround and engulf him, forming this bulb. And it just starts to move and shake before it just bursts open. And there, sitting on a throne-shaped flower, is fully transformed Salem, holding a parasol of vibrant pink, petals now just cascading around him.
Wow, that was really cool.
Was not expecting that. I don't know how that all fit in my small apartment, but...
You know, magic is kind of weird like that, but it's fun too. And good news is there's a lot of things you can do. Come over here to the window.
Over to the window.
The cat jumps down and comes running over to the window. You see the window just slide open and almost on its own accord, and the cat just jumps up onto the ledge. He turns back and says, well, you can't fully fly just yet, but you can kind of hover. Focus on your power and push it downward as you jump, and you'll be able to hover your way down onto the street. And watch, he jumps, and as he does, the wings just spread outward like a cape, and you just kind of see him floating down towards the street, and he yells, "Come on!"
I mean, I guess you only live once, or twice in my case, and just runs and jumps, follows the same form, tries to feel the magic, push him up, and float.
And it does, yeah. It just kind of gives you this slow hover descent downward. And it's weird. You can feel the air pressing around you, but you can also feel just the inherent magic coming from you, pushing downward, allowing it to cushion you just a little bit and create the slow descent downward. You land easily on the street, and as you do, the Wanderer is just still flying there, flapping. He turns to you and says, there's a lot of things to impart, but your magic itself, it's all up in here. All of your abilities, they're in your mind. You have certain things now available to you, and things like a communicator that you can pull out, things like weapons that are inherent to your nature. Your parasol is your Magi-Knight weapon. You can use these things to fight the cultists, fight the outsiders. You won't kill them. You won't kill the people anyway. That power that you have, it purifies them. But to the outsider, it's deadly. So keep that in mind. But we got to get going. The rest of the team is about a couple miles away down the river. We better hurry.
Right. And with that, I think Salem will start doing the huge, the now Magi-Knight jump and hover just to really get going.
Yep, and
my way there.
You take off running, following this black cat to whatever adventure lies ahead of you. No doubt there's a lot of questions in your mind, a lot of what's going on. It probably feels a little surreal to you, but that's how every good adventure starts. A little surrealness, a little madness, and a lot of fun. So, thank you very much for doing this with me to introduce the character of Salem. Why don't you go ahead and real quick tell us who you are and where we can find you on the internet.
Sure. I'm John. I am an illustrator. You can find most of my works as well as some of my personal stuff on Instagram at CreativePanda88 or at Twitter at JPatrickIllust, like small part of illustration, 1. Kind of weird. But I am getting a blue sky, so we'll be moving that way soon.
Yep. Right on.
But that's where I'm at.
Cool beans. Well, as you all know, I'm Matthew R. Dawson, your friendly neighborhood host and magic keeper for the Magi-Knights Awakening playthrough that we're doing. We'll see you again real soon. Thank you for hanging out with us for this little mini shot to introduce Salem Blackwood, our brand new Magi-Knight of the Earth, and specifically of flowers. Good night, everybody.
Good night.